Hello, and welcome to another American Photo Trek's post-processing video. I'm Dave Soldano, and in this video we're going to be post-processing our Milky Way image that we took just outside of Grand Teton National Park over the John Moulton Barn. And we're gonna work together to process this. First of all, I want to thank everyone who attended the workshop. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lack of sleep situation for most of that workshop. We did sunrise, sunset, Milky Way on 2 different nights, so we really pushed the boundaries of what we could get done with a little bit of sleep, but we came away with some really great images and we had a lot of fun. And thank you very much for everyone who attended. If you've never watched one of these videos before, it's pretty simple. That's me. I'm Dave. You know me. And every time I touch anything, whether it be a mouse click or a button on the keyboard, anything like that, then it shows up right here so you can follow along with me. You can pause it and hopefully just I'll try and explain everything I'm doing as I go. This one isn't going to be too technical. The image was pretty darn good right in camera, so let's just get started. Right now I'm in Adobe Bridge. If you're in Lightroom, I'm going to go into Adobe Camera Raw, and it's almost exactly the same, Raw in Lightroom. Just 2 different workflows, but it's the exact same processes. So here we go. This is the image I've selected. There's several good ones to select. I think I'm selecting this one just because the lighting seems a little bit better. And so we're going to double click on it. And there's our image. And it doesn't look too bad, but I'll tell you one thing right off the bat is that barn looks awful green. Maybe this was from a car passing or something. Everything lit up pretty good, but definitely not a realistic looking color on that barn. So we'll start up here with these profiles. And actually, before I do any of this, I'm going to go do my lens. I'm going to select my lens. And I'm going to show you why. So first of all, I want to remove chromatic aberration, although this was not a contrasty image at all. I don't expect there to be any, but why not? And then I'm going to enable profile corrections, and this is lens specific. And I'm going to show you why, because it does a great job with these wide angle lenses. I'm using a wide angle prime. I'm using a Sigma 20 millimeter f1.4. I was using it at f2 for 15 seconds. In this case, it was ISO 3200. So there you can kind of see. And we didn't need, later on, I think we probably upped the ISOs, but I think this one was just fine. Got pretty good detail in the Milky Way. But now look what happens when I turn this on, especially around the edges. See, around the edges, you get a little bit of the elongation of the stars. They're not quite points, and you get some darkness around there. Enable this profile correction, and now suddenly everything is points and nice. Still didn't quite fix that color, did it? So we'll have to go back over here to do that. And Adobe introduced these profiles a few updates ago. They're pretty cool. You can check out the different ones, see which one might apply best here. Portrait one, don't look too bad. Standard, vivid, I don't like, too crispy. Color, I think standard was about the one I liked the best. And now we're going to work on the white balance. A favorite white balance is right around 39, 37, around there. You get too blue, it's not that good. 37, pretty good, I like that. 38, it's kind of black, but just a hint of blue. 39 ain't bad either. I think we'll go with 39 right there. Maybe, yeah. And then we're going to move our tint a little bit more towards the purple. And it's helping with the barn, as you can see, helping with the more natural green shades down here. And it's just making everything look a bit more realistic down here, but we don't want to go too far because look what it does to the sky. So I'd say right about here, and we'll have to deal with these green colors in other ways. Then I'm going to hit the auto here just to kind of let it get me started. Obviously, it overexposed things, so I'll bring that back down. I think our exposure was just about perfect as we might go with a +5, make it pop just a little bit more. Contrast, don't want to be too contrasty, you don't want it to look crispy. Highlights, I think it took care of pretty good. I'd like a little bit more shadow in my picture than it. Don't want too much though. Right about there, I'd say. The whites look good because all the stars now are nice bright whites. Blacks, maybe bring the blacks down just a tad to make the scene pop a little bit more. It's good. Dehaze is usually your friend when you're processing the Milky Way, and you can see that. Just move the slider, you can see how it usually brings out the Milky Way. I don't want to do it too much. Still want everything to look realistic. Everything's looking a little super purpley to me. Vibrance is about right. Saturation about right, but we've still got this real problem with the color green here. So I'm going to take my targeted adjustment tool right here. I'm going to go to Hue. First I'm going to do Luminance. I'm going to bring down the luminance. All I do is put that targeted adjustment tool right on the color that I want to affect. If I move it to the right, it's going to take up the luminance. If I move it to the left, it's going to bring it down. So I'm going to move it to the left, and you can see from the sliders over there that it's moving it down and it's making the greens a little darker. That's helped a little, but it still hasn't fixed it. So now we'll try Hue. And we're going to try and change the hue of these greens, make them more realistic. That's a little better. Still ain't perfect though, is it? So we'll put it on the barn here where it looks kind of the most ugly green, right about here maybe. Move that a little. That's helping. That's helping all the greens. Yeah, there we go. It's starting to look like a wooden barn. See what it's doing to the rest of the picture. Not bad. It's not perfect, but I think we've helped a lot. Yeah, there was definitely a super green hue on that, wasn't there? All right, so now I want to make the Milky Way pop a little bit more. And for that, I'm going to come over here. Oops. And I'm going to take an adjustment brush right there. And there's my brush. See it right there? And you can make it larger and smaller by adjusting the brackets here. And you see that there's a circle in the center that's black. That's where the adjustment is going to be 100%, and then it's going to feather out to the larger circle. And I'm going to zero these out, and I'm going to paint my Milky Way right here. Paint it right there. Now you notice it hasn't done anything yet, but if I show you the mask, you'll see that's where it's going to be affecting, and it's going to be affecting more, deeper in, and then feather out. So now, first of all, I'm going to up my exposure just a tad so that, you know, the Milky Way pops a little bit, and you start to see the clouds. That's nice. I like that. Okay, let's take a look at my white balance here. There, I can give it a little color. More or less purple to taste. It's pretty close. There, that looks good. Kind of giving it something there. I'm going to give it a little dehaze. Make it pop a little bit more. A little clarity to, again, give it definition. Looking at the clouds. That's not bad. Just want to be able to see it. A little, I don't know, saturation. And let's see what else. A little contrast to make us see it a little better. Again, you don't want to do any of these things too much. Highlights, there we go. Now we're only adjusting the Milky Way. We don't want to do anything too much because we don't want it to you know, make it look unnatural or ruin it. So I think that's a good start right now. We've definitely still got some things that we got to work on, but we're going to have to move it into Photoshop now if we want to make further adjustments. So This seems like a pretty good starting point, and we'll say open image. That's all we had to do is click open image. And as you can see, we still got issues right here with the green. It's still not quite realistic. First though, I'm going to take my little lasso tool here, and I'm going to lasso this right there. And I'm going to get rid of that because it's just a distraction. There we go. And all I did was right click, say select fill, deselect, kind of left a little bit of right there. I'm also going to adjust my crop just a little, so we're just emphasizing the good stuff and putting things about where I want to put them. There we go. Looks about right. I like that. Yeah, that looks good. All right, now still having issues with the greenness and the colors here. And let's just see if we can get rid of the color tint. Let's try using Color Efex Pro here for a second. This is part of the Nik Efex package, free package. Pretty nice. Skylight Filter warmed everything up, but first we're going to try Pro Contrast and Correct Color Cast. And I like what that's doing to the whole picture. It's not bad at all. There we go. More dynamic there, but so we are doing a pretty good job of correcting the color cast, but still not where we want it. We could add a filter and try the Skylight Filter now. Not Sunlight, Skylight. And not to my taste. So as we turn this off and on, we can kind of see what we did here. I think we did help things in general, but it's still not where we want to be with these colors. So I'll say OK. And as you can see, it created its own layer over here. So I can choose to adjust how much I want to apply that Pro Contrast. And that looks about fine to me. And I'll hit Layer, Flatten. A lot of people don't like to do that. It's just easier for me. And it's pretty clear to me that now that any adjustments I start making down here are going to start affecting the colors of my sky, which I don't want. I'm pretty good with the colors of my sky. There's some things I'm going to do to it here in a minute. So I think I'm going to have to separate out my foreground. And to do that, I'm going to take my quick selection tool. I'm going to come down here, make it just a little bit bigger, and I'm going to start selecting the sky. Just the sky. There we go. Make it a little smaller to get into some of these small spots. Hit Shift to continue to expand my selection. As you see here, it's not perfect, but it needs to be. So I'm going to hit Select and Mask, and I'm going to take my Refine Mask tool, make it pretty small here. The smaller you make it, the more defined it does. And then I'm going to go over the difficult spots where we've got things like tree branches, things like that. And I'm going to use it to refine my mask. It does a really good job. Every iteration of Photoshop, every update, it seems like this masking tool gets a little better. That's done what I think is a pretty darn good job there. I'm going to say OK. And now I've got a really good mask of my sky. But I don't want to work on my sky right now, so I'm going to say Select and Inverse. So now I'm selecting the foreground instead of the sky. And there's a lot of ways I could do this. And I think I'm going to handle this with a new layer. So I'm going to right click and then say Layer via Copy. So now I've created a layer that is nothing but the foreground here. You can see I'll shut that off, and I got no sky at all. And look what a great job it did of selecting just my foreground. So now any adjustment I make while this layer is highlighted is only going to affect my foreground. And that's really, really handy. So let's see, how are we going to, let's take a look at, we're only working on this, so we're going to go Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. Here we see green and purple, so we're going to kind of move that purple. There we go. That's starting to look more like a barn, isn't it? And the green's starting to look more like a natural green. There we go. Let's try that with the, we're working on the midtones. Let's try that with the highlights too. Yeah, there we go. That's starting to look like a barn. All right. And back to the midtones. There we go. Bring down the yellows. Starting to look right. Do the same with the highlights. And that's getting a lot closer, and that's very realistic. And I think we've done a good job with that. And now maybe we want to make this foreground pop a little bit more. So let's try that. Let's go into Color Efex Pro. Right there. And cancel. Sorry. There we go. Let's just, I have to turn off this background or else it'll open them both. So now let's try this again. Color Efex Pro. Now we're just working on the foreground here. And yeah, let's hit this Pro Contrast. Not bad. I'm going to go between that and Tonal Contrast. See which one I like better. This is Pro Contrast, Tonal Contrast, Pro, Tonal. Tonal's a little too crispy. I'm going to go with Pro. It's not too bad. And it is helping with the color cast from that light. Not bad. Let's see what Skylight Filter looks like. Might warm things up a little bit. It's a little happier color of the barn, isn't it? Just a little bit. There we go, just a little bit. Yeah, that's giving it a little bit of a glow, but it's kind of prettier. Looks more like there's a light shining on it. I like that. Say OK. Now we can turn back on the sky to see how it looks with the sky, and that looks pretty darn good. So I'm gonna, so you can turn that down, turn it up. And that's giving some pop right there. I like that. All right. So we can shut that off, shut that off. Now I'm going to open up Vivesa. This is the one that does, this is also a Nik Efex, Vivesa 2. I'm going to add a control point. I come over here, this green is still bothering me, can you tell? And I'm going to desaturate it a little bit because it's driving me crazy. There you go. I'm going to bring down the brightness of it a little bit again because it's driving me crazy. And turn down the shadows a little bit. I'm going to duplicate that. Oops, and do another one right over here. So I really don't want this grass to be the focal point of my image, right? I got a lot of other things in the image that I want people to be focusing on other than this grass in the foreground. I mean, I don't mind the grass having some light on it and stuff. I just don't want it to be the focal point of my image. So I'm going to say OK. And there you can see what I did there. It might have affected some other things that I didn't want to affect from the grass. So I'm going to say Alt and Mask. That turns off the mask. I mean, that basically turns off the whole effect of what I just did. Now I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to turn that brush way up to like 80% flow and opacity. And now I'm just going to brush back in that effect using the white brush. See there? So I'm only going to affect the areas that I wanted to affect. Well, there's like a purple cast over here too we may have to deal with, huh? Not sure that ground is supposed to be purple. Alright, so there we go. That's not too bad, is it? Turn that off and on. You can see what I did there. Just didn't want, oops, just didn't want that grass to be the focal point of my image like it was. Alright, so I think I'm going to layer, merge visible all into one. I'm going to do one more Vivesa 2 thing right here. And I just got some runaway purple going on here or something. I'm going to try and bring down the reds here. Maybe this is a hue adjustment. Purple, green. Oh, this is a challenge, isn't it? How about just a saturation? Maybe we just don't need a lot of color in our dirt. There we go. Bring down this. Well, we definitely got some purple going on in our dirt, don't we? Let's cool it off. There we go. Now it's starting to look like dirt instead of whatever that was. There we go. And that's probably going to do wonders on this barn roof too. It sure is. I might give the barn roofs back some of its color though. That's a, all right, now I'll say okay. And again, it affected a lot more area than I probably wanted it to, so I'm going to again hit a negative mask, Alt, and I'm going to paint it white just where I want to affect. So I don't like that purple up here. There we go. And I like what I did up here. So there we go. So that's looking a lot more realistic and pretty darn good too. This barn was a very interesting foreground subject. We did good here. All right. There you can kind of see, just made that look a little more realistic. Turn the sky back on. You can see we're starting to get a pretty darn good looking picture here. Got a little bit of a purple cast over here. It's driving me just a little bit crazy. And so I'm going to hit this. And now here's another little, this is an old school one, sponge tool, which basically is a desaturate tool. And I'm just going to take my sponge right here and desaturate some of that purple cast right there. And it's only doing it 16% at a time, but I think it's getting her done. Take a look. So it was a lot real purple, a lot less. There we go. All right, so now our image is starting to look pretty darn good, but I don't think our sky is looking quite as poppy as I'd like it to. So layer, I'm going to merge the visible ones. No, that one, let's go back and turn that off. And now I'm going to merge, layer, merge visible. And I can turn back on my sky. And now, since we've already separated out, I know that doesn't look that good there, but now we can work on this separately and just look at the sky. And so I'm going to go back into my Color Effects Pro in Effects. I'm going to try something here. Let's see what tonal, tonal contrast sometimes can look pretty darn good on just the sky. And I think it really made this pop. Obviously, we don't want that much, but that's okay because we've created a layer. So we can say, okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to move this layer down here so it's just above that. Turn that back on. And now See? That looks pretty good, huh? Yeah, that's looking real good. All right, I'm liking it. So a couple more things. Just this has gone a little longer than I thought it would, but it's starting to look pretty good. I like that. Got a little bit of pop there. It's a good looking scene. Okay, layer, merge down. So we've got just these two. And now I'm going to, something I've started doing, add just a little bit of glamour glow to make the Milky Way look not quite so crispy. You can find Portrait, Glamour Glow right there. Just look at the Milky Way. And you know, we don't want to add that much of an effect. Some people like to add it to the whole image. Has made things look a little less, the whole thing look a little less crispy. But so I'm going to turn that on. And what I'll do here is, again, I'm going to, this I may let it affect the whole thing. So first I'll put a negative mask on that, Alt, and then hit the mask. And as you can see now, oop, wrong one. Gotta have the right one highlighted. So I'll say Alt and mask. And now, so you see that the entire effect has gone away. But now I'm going to paint away first the Milky Way. So let's take our white, very soft brush. Let's go 50% for my flow and opacity. And I'm going to just paint the Milky Way. So I'm just going to give that glamour glow to the Milky Way to make it look soft. See? It's not quite so crispy. It's a pretty good effect. Now, I'm going to really bring down my brush to like 20%. And I'm going to add that glamour glow to the rest of the picture to kind of take away the crispiness of the whole thing and make it look more realistic. It's pretty darn good. All right. See how it's just kind of taking the hard edge off everything? Maybe one more pass. See, just, yeah, kind of a little less crispy right there. All right, now I'm getting pretty close to being done here. I kind of want to move my viewer's eye to a certain place. So I'm going to take my Color Effects Pro again. Now I'm going to come over to my Wedding, Darken, Lighten, Center. I'm going to choose a round center. I'm going to bring my center right about here. Look what that did. It's taken your eye right to where I want it to go. Let me turn it off and on. Boom. And that looks, I like that a lot. Now, it looks like it's a little too much, right? Which is fine, because again, we're just creating a layer. So, I don't have to use that much. Go there, take my layer all the way down, and then just gently bring it up until I get the effect without overdoing it. And that looks pretty good. Looks real good. There's the effect. Boom. Instead of just a flat image, now I've taken your eye to right there where it looks like this is really highlighting. Looks pretty darn good. I like that a lot. Okay? And layer, flatten. I don't know, do you think we need a little bit more in those trees? Just a little bit. It's going to turn into a 30-minute video here, but it's okay. Let's just do it. And let's just add a little brightness to these trees using Viveza. Just a little bit. And I know it's affecting other things, and we're probably overdoing it a little bit here, but that's okay. I'll show you why, because again, we're just creating a layer. So we'll say okay. Again, we'll put a negative mask on this. and we'll only paint the effect where we want it. Make it a smaller brush. Oh. Come up here, right there. You're like, Dave, that's too much. There you go. And now we're going to turn this way down and bring it up just a little bit. So there's just a little bit. We know they're trees and not just big, ugly clumps there. I don't want too much. All right. So you can see just from blacked out to right about there. And that's what that looks like. Okay, layer, flatten. That looks pretty good. All right, now let's get rid of the noise. I'm just going to use Define 2, which is again part of the Nik Efex package. It selects where it sees noise, and it's going to soften that a bit for me, which is just fine. It softened everything quite a bit, didn't it? Let's bring this down here. We'll only take about a 70% there. And that's it. That's my final image. And you know what? Layer, flatten. One more thing to make sure it looks more like a night image, and again takes the eye right where we want to do. One last little, I'm going to go Image, Adjustment, Exposure, and Gamma Correction. Something I often do right at the very end of any process. You see what that did? Just a little bit, but it made it look a little bit more like a night image, but it still kept my lighting, and I like that just a little bit better. There we go. And that's finally it. Wow, that took longer than I thought it was going to take, didn't it? 32 minutes. All right, well, hopefully if you hung in there with me, then you've seen what I did. I hope you like it. You don't have to do it my way for sure, but this is my way, and my way did take a little bit of time there. And look at here, I'm still not done. Little distractions. Gotta go. Yeah, I don't want little. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Please share your pictures on Facebook and Instagram. Please tag American Photo Treks when you do. I'd be very happy that you did. And thank you for coming, and thank you for watching my video. And you guys, yeah, please, on my YouTube page, if you like the way I post-process my videos, please say like and subscribe. And hope to see you at another American Photo Treks another American Photo Treks workshop. You guys have a great one. Bye.